Hello and welcome. Let's begin with the tensions brewing in the Horn of Africa, at the center of which is Africa's largest dam, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or the GERD. Now, here are the parties in the conflict. On one hand, it's Ethiopia, the upstream country who built the dam to boost its electricity output and regional influence. And the opposing party is Egypt, the downstream country which sees the dam as an existential threat. Sudan also echoes Egypt's sentiments, fearing reduced water flows. However, the credit for fueling tensions in the region goes to US President Donald Trump. For the third time in a month, Trump has claimed that the US funded the Ethiopian dam. Two similar claims made by the US president earlier this month were shot down by the Ethiopian government as untrue. Earlier this month, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed announced the completion of the dam. The project was launched in 2011 with a $4 billion budget. The dam is due to be inaugurated in September. While the dam is the centerpiece of Ethiopia's development agenda, the move has angered other Nile countries, especially Egypt. Despite the Ethiopian Prime Minister's promise that the dam is a shared opportunity, Cairo is not convinced. And in this conflict, Egypt has Trump's backing. Last month, in a post on Truth Social, Trump said the US stupidly funded the Ethiopian dam. Trump has backed Egypt's concerns that the dam will substantially reduce water flowing into the Nile. In 2020, Trump even said that Egypt might even blow up the dam. But why is the US president siding with Egypt in this dispute? The US president is not the one to help others for free, and Egypt is no exception. One of the reasons for Trump's support for Egypt stems from the war raging in Gaza. Trump wants Egypt to support Washington's close ally, Israel. How? Trump wants Egypt to back Israel's plan to confine millions of Palestinians in a concentration camp close to the Rafah border in southern Gaza. But Egypt is not eager to follow his demands. Egypt has rejected Israel's plans to establish a so-called humanitarian city on the ruins of Rafah. Cairo sees Israel's plan as a step toward forcing the Palestinians across the border into Egypt. This also means that Israel would step up its security presence in a zone between the two countries, where such a deployment would be a violation of the 1979 peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. Cairo has also long sought US intervention in the dispute over the dam. It wants the US to pressurize Ethiopia into backing down on its plans to limit the flow of the Blue Nile. It remains to be seen what price will Cairo have to pay to keep Trump's support. And for more on this, we are being joined by Mr. Zemedeneh, who is a geopolitical commentator, live from Addis Ababa. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, President Trump has claimed multiple times that the US funded the Renaissance Dam, despite Ethiopia insisting it was financed domestically through crowdfunding and state support. What do you make of these conflicting narratives, and is there any verifiable evidence of US financial involvement in the dam's construction?
First of all, as always, Allison, thank you for having me back on your program. As you indicated in your introduction, the dam is obviously not only very important for Ethiopia, for the whole of East Africa, all the way up to North Africa. It is, of course, headline news in Washington and in many parts of the world. And the answer to your question is, has the United States funded the dam? Let me backtrack for a second. A few weeks ago, when I first heard President Trump mentioned in a social media posting that the United States funded the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, my initial reaction, and I tweeted about it, was that he must have been misinformed by his staff, who may have provided them erroneous information, because it was obvious. I mean, I remember back when the dam was looking for financing, something like several years ago, Ethiopia had actually gone around the world, to the World Bank, to all the European institutions, to US institutions, seeking financing, because it is a very large financing package, over $5 billion. And I remember very vividly that, including the World Bank, they turned down Ethiopia's request. In fact, from what I remember, many of these institutions were saying, why do you need a dam that produces 5,000 or 6,000 megawatts? They said, Ethiopia, you only need maybe 1,000 or 1,200 megawatts. So every single institution that Ethiopia, and this is on the record, Ethiopia had approached, had turned it down. They refused, including DFIs like the World Bank, whose primary responsibility is to invest in development projects. So there is no evidence that the United States has funded the dam. In fact, the dam was funded 100% by Ethiopian government and Ethiopians, including a large number of the Ethiopian diaspora community, contributed to the dam, which is now completed and will be set for inauguration very soon. So there is no evidence. So I'm not really sure why President Trump was informed, and I would like to believe he was misinformed by his staff, who are supposed to provide him factual information, because this is very easily verifiable as far as we can tell, that there is no American funding for the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Yes.
The United States has been a very long development partner of Ethiopia for decades, but many other things. But definitely, as far as I know, there is no evidence that the United States has put in any kind of financing to fund the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Right. Right. And considering the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam's highly symbolic value to Ethiopia and its position as a sovereign development project, how might Trump's repeated claims affect US-Ethiopia relations, particularly at a time when the dam is completed and nearing inauguration, and regional tensions with Egypt and Sudan are ongoing?
Right. I mean, this is a strategic development project. As I said, not only for Ethiopia, for the whole of Africa. Millions of Africans live in darkness today. Millions across East Africa, all the way up to parts of North Africa. So I think the way President Trump and the US administration and others should look at it is, this is an uplifting project. Yes, it's Ethiopians are extremely proud that they've been able to deliver as a country, as people, such a magnificent project, producing something like 5,000, 6,000 megawatts, the largest hydroelectric power dam in Africa and amongst the 10 largest. Imagine an emerging economy delivering on such a huge project. Normally, we're used to seeing these kinds of things in China, or even in the early days in the United States when it was US was building very large dams. So I think the US, I'm sure President Trump was very excited about development and state of aid. I am sure when he sees the real facts, and when he in fact, you know what, it would be nice for him to actually come and visit the dam itself. And I think he'll be very impressed. So I think that's how we should look at it. Yes, it has a geopolitical angle because the Egyptians are concerned. And the other thing also I want to add here, in his statement the other day, I think he was speaking at a dinner in the US, he mentioned that the dam hinders the flow of the water. Well, again, I am 100% certain his advisors didn't provide him the factual information. It's very easy to verify and present to the president that the dam is a hydroelectric power dam. It's not an irrigation dam. The water is not curtailed. It just flows through the turbines and just flows back into the river and goes all the way up to Egypt. So there is, even technically, I think he was misinformed. Again, experts who are supposed to inform him about these kinds of things. So again, this is something that easily verifiable, and I don't think the president should have any concern about the water being curtailed to Egypt. Now, the final point I want to make is Egypt and Ethiopia have been negotiating about this thing for a very long time. And Ethiopia, from I know for a fact, had offered Egypt a lot of opportunities to show them that this is not going to affect Egyptian life. I mean, I was involved in some of the discussions, for example, and I know the Egyptians were clearly provided evidence that not a liter, not a gallon of water will be curtailed from what they're receiving today. So I don't know, the media in Egypt probably, again, is not providing the right information. But this is a development project that everyone in the world, including the United States, should be proud of.
Right. Thank you very much. As always, great to have you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Alison.
First Post now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
At $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka-charge.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Skali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 trilhões.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. First Post.